Hello and welcome once again to Talking Pictures Podcast. I'm your host David and joined with me, as always, my co-host Brian. Brian, how are you today?
Who would you like to be stuck in an elevator with?
Just in general, ever?
Well, celebrities.
Celebrities? I don't know. I've never thought about that. I don't know why. Who would you like to be stuck in an elevator with?
Mark Wahlberg from that new movie trailer, Flight Risk. Did you see that trailer? Did you see the state of him? Oh my god. I saw that. No, I'll tell you what, David. I knew this movie was being directed by Mel Gibson, and I heard about it. Called Flight Risk, where an air marshal's travelling a prisoner because he's a witness to a big drug cartel. That's irrelevant. The primarily focus of the movie is in this airplane with this pilot escorting them, and the pilot is none other than Marky Mark. But I saw the thumbnail, and I went into the video of the YouTube, and I saw that a comment was made. I feel like I just watched the entire movie. Okay, I'll just listen to the trailer. Mm-hmm. And so I listened to it, and it sounded very much generic, but I was curious to know how Mark Wahlberg came across, because I followed this YouTuber and he discussed this movie trailer when he saw it at Comic-Con. No, not Comic-Con, CinemaCon. Mm-hmm. And the way he described it sounded like a lot of fun. And the irony of the movie is that the pilot is there to kill the witness, but they've restrained him. Mm-hmm. But they need a pilot to pilot the plane. And the way he described Mark Wahlberg in the trailer that he saw in CinemaCon was, y'all need a pilot? With a big cheeky smile on his face. I thought it was going to be a typical Mark Wahlberg, very generic, similar to like maybe what he was like in Pain and Gain or something like that.
You pronounce Wahlberg so weird.
Really?
Say it.
Wahlberg.
I
call it, yeah. I've always called him Wahlberg. Well, I
sorry.
Let's recircle back to that, and I'll just finish by, once the trailer was over, and the way he said it, yeah, I need a pilot, like real hillbilly Joe type of personality, and he's got a lazy eye, and what's worse is he's got no hair on the top. Mm-hmm. He's thinning, as famously said by King Triton in SpongeBob. Mm-hmm. So that caught my attention.
It's a trailer that I saw the image of him with no hair, and I started watching the trailer, and I turned it off halfway through, and I was like, well, that's something I'm never going to watch. It didn't do anything for me. So I'm shocked. Well, I don't know why I'm shocked. It's just, I'm surprised you've picked it for the trailer of the week, but I shouldn't be.
Why should it be?
I don't know. Sometimes you just pick like the weirdest things.
What? That's not weird.
Yes, it is.
This is Mel Gibson directing.
Yeah, but...
And he's not chosen Hawkeye Wahlberg. He's following the trend of Colin Farrell in The Penguin, and now Chris Hemsworth in Furiosa. He's now getting Marky Mark, hot and some Marky Mark Wahlberg to play
Wahlberg, it's like a wall.
A very unattractive character. Mm-hmm. Y'all need a pilot. And he smiles and he's laughing because, yeah, they do need the pilot. I didn't watch the trailer. I listened to it. And then when he said that at the end, I just rewinded it 10 seconds to watch that scene. Mm-hmm. I just want to say, that line is the subtext in the title. You know, in the First Omen, create something to fear. In Flight Risk, this movie, y'all need a pilot.
Well, I'm glad that you're excited to see Flight Risk. What's it called? Flight Risk?
Flight Risk.
I will not be joining you for that. That'll be one you can see by yourself. And I look forward to seeing your 1-star Letterboxd review saying how much you regret. Looking forward to this film.
I suppose the last time we saw a movie in September in cinema, let's just say I apologise to you.
Yeah, that's a fair one. Yeah, I actually blanked that out of my memory. That was Expendables 4, and I remember Expendables 4 so well because I had never seen an Expendables movie before this. And you were like, "I'm gonna go see Expendables 4," and I'm like, "Okay, I'll watch the other ones to lead up." And I'll be honest, did not have that great of a time. And then in the middle of Expendables 4, I watched you pull out your phone and give it half a star and review it then and there in the cinema while it's going on. And you just like turned over to me and you go, I'm really sorry about this. Like you were genuinely apologizing as if you had made the movie. I thought it was the funniest thing ever.
Enough on that, David. What are we here to talk about?
We're here to talk about the newest prequel in the Quiet Place universe, which is A Quiet Place Day 1.
There, Djimon Hounsou.
You sometimes, Brian, you just have absolutely no filter. I think it's so funny. Yes, not starring, but featuring Djimon Hounsou.
He gets the and in the credits.
He gets the and. Maybe we'll discuss him a little bit later in the flashback section. Who knows? But this is the newest entry into the Quiet Place universe, taking place a year and a half before the events of the first and second film.
I didn't count the days. I just know it's day 1.
Yeah, so it's, I think the original one is somewhere around 450 days or so. The second one then taking place 2 or 3 days later. But this one is very much the beginning, day 1. We are introduced into this world pre-aliens.
It's a hard concept to execute, I think. And a concept idea that was foreshadowed all the way back since the original one, I think. And let me explain how I feel this way, especially for this franchise. The first one opens up with day number, and then after that, cruel opening. I'll just not talk about it in case someone hasn't seen A Quiet Place.
I think full spoilers for A Quiet Place 1, 2, and then this one as well. If you haven't seen any of them, we're going to be talking about them, so feel free to spoil. But
so after the child gets brutally murdered, that opening scene, and then it skips to nearly a year, day nada, right? And then in part 2, I don't know if we get any days like that, but in the main timeline, but we do get day 1, where we see John Krasinski return as the father, and it's pretty much their perspective of the first events. And we saw
a small quiet town,
how that is also maintained in execution wise. So it felt very natural and obvious that the next chapter of this franchise would be a spin-off prequel, A Quiet Place Day 1. Tell me I'm not crazy. Tell me I'm not looking too deep into it. Tell me I'm saying...
No, I think it seemed like it was just a very natural progression. That you see the first 2 parts, the first 2 installments, that, I would want to see some kind of a prequel. I would want to see the Day 1.
And and even in the title, as it says itself, Day 1, and how about you have to do it then in the city. And with the opening line, New York...
it has an average noise level of 90 decibels.
Yes.
Which is the equivalent of a constant scream.
Yeah. So that was nice. That was nice information to have in relation to this type of movie. And I thought, okay, well, these Quiet Place movies follow a family where it communicate sign language. Because one of the children is deaf.
And that's how they have survived as long.
Yes. So how do we see non-ASL communicators survive? Off screen. Cut to black. She wakes up. Oh, they've already figured it out. Okay. You know?
That was an initial problem I had. Not a problem, but just like a little nitpick.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember from the first film, but... it seems as though there is a little bit of time between the aliens landing and when they realize that sound is the key, because there's a newspaper that says, I remember it very vividly, it just like is the headline is "It's sound," and that's where they kind of realize, shut up or else they're going to catch you. But in this one, it's very much like immediately the world is gone. There's no hanging on. There's no newspapers still being printed after the invasion starts, after the aliens land. So just a little bit of continuity there. And it's no one's fault, because you don't want Day 1, you don't want this film to start and it's a couple of days and then they start attacking and civilization's going on still. It's a problem of the first film, but it's not like one that would have been thought out. It's only a problem in hindsight.
Could that be dissolved by it just... the majority of these aliens coming to Earth, which were confirmed in the second movie. They're aliens, not monsters. It was never confirmed what they were in the first movie.
Oh, right, okay, yeah.
In the second movie,
We see them landing, yeah.
Because, from the sky. Confirms they're aliens. They just primarily land in New York. We see that. And we see some land in the town that the family were from. I forget where that is. So maybe wherever they are, maybe some places didn't receive any asteroids hitting them, and so
there's a possibility. Yeah, maybe I'm looking just too into it. I just assumed that because it hit like this one town in the first film and New York, that it would hit all of the major metropolitan areas. Like I think naturally, well, not naturally, but if you were to say to me, where would you go from here, I would say, I'd want to see different locations. I'd want to see London. I'd want to see Shanghai. I'd want to see Australia. I want to see different locations, not just America. Or is this just an American issue? Did they land just in America? Because if they did, we know they can't swim, so they're stuck.
Yeah, they're not just solidified that they can't swim. That if they hiss, which essentially they're breathing, immediately they drown. We see that in this movie, which is nice. Not only they can't swim, they drown. Water is by its extent their weakness, but they're not the type of aliens that coordinate their arrival, shot in a computer screen and then set targets for, all right, this squadron tackle this center of the globe.
They're not planned.
Like, honestly, it could either be like they're travelers and let's just hit here, or they veered off from a major tribe navigating space, and they just...
It's very, very ambiguous.
Yes.
In all of these films, we're just seeing it from the human perspective.
Oh, yeah.
Even in this one, we see a tiny little bit from the alien perspective, and it's when Joseph Quinn's character, Eric, when he...
I honestly thought it was Aaron.
I thought it was Henry. That's the problem.
And Henry.
Yeah.
I thought Henry, Aaron, Eric.
Yeah. When he is in the construction site, and you see this kind of big creature with like what looks like eggs or pods, and I'm like, okay,
like that,
is this like the equivalent now we're seeing of the eggs from Alien? Is this how they reproduce? But it seemed like it was more food than anything.
Yep.
Do you know, like,
also that
they're there to stay. It's not just they're there to kill us.
I don't need the answers.
No, that's the thing. I don't need the answers, but it's a nice little bit of building upon this alien creature, whatever they're called.
Like, the only answer we got in the second one was, they came from the sky. And so that's it. If anyone has an issue with the ambiguity of the aliens, I don't think that's an issue at all. That goes around to the subjectiveness. Boy, with that fucker big. The size of his head compared to Joseph Quinn's head.
When he made that grunt, I sighed. I was like, oh no, it's going to hear. And then immediately the head came up and my jaw dropped. It genuinely got me and my heart sank. My jaw dropped and my heart sank. I was like, oh, here it is. And it was huge. It's the biggest one we've seen. Everything else we've seen has been pretty much the
average size,
like as big as a human, if not bigger. But this one was like monstrous. This one was huge. This is like the boss battle in a video game, and how it didn't hear him and him right there. I don't know, like, but it was genuinely scary, that moment.
You know what I really liked about the creatures, and I think this comes from director Michael Sarnoski. He had a wide shot of, I think, the helicopters going over the city, drawn sound.
Yeah,
and we see them all scatter like cockroaches.
That's the thing I wanted to bring up, was that in this film, compared to the other two, in the first film, we see, or we know from Lee, John Krasinski's character, he knows there's 3 in the area, maybe 4. We don't see very many of them. However, in this is the initial drop, and so just seeing so many of them, this initial invasion, it was scary. It was genuinely like a different level of... It's kind of like how you would look at Alien as a horror film and Aliens as an action film.
Yeah.
Not to that extent here, but very much like it's just a bigger scale of... Look at all of these things and the way they're scattering up the buildings, or even later on when they're in the glass building and they're dropping down on top of them. Genuinely scary. Even just how many of them there are,
And... when she leaves the theater, and we can come back to the story.
Oh, yes,
When
yes.
we can come back to the story. But when she leaves the theater, meets the two kids, sees people gathering in numbers, and I'm sure you were thinking about this as well. With all these people making these footsteps, and then the wheelchair making, and suitcase clattering, and then just cut to a wide shot off the entire street of the block.
Yeah.
Completely swarmed. And you're just looking at all these people. Before the attack, did you notice the creature on the side of the building?
No.
Because I immediately saw it the millisecond before it started attack in that wide shot. If you watched the trailer, which we did, it was in it.
I'll have to go back and watch it now.
Because you're immediately expecting something to happen because of all these insert shots of the noise making.
Mm-hmm.
Cut to the bigger wide shot of all these swarms of people just going north. It's camouflaged by the set design that the creature is just in the corner of the building, and you can and it's there long enough for some people in the audience to spot it before it attacks. And I spotted it just a millisecond. Like, I saw it before I could react to it.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah.
So I really like that.
Another aspect that it happened a few times, just the stampedes. Like the stampedes of the creatures going past the doors and stuff like that, and you're like, fuck, these things are fast.
Do you know what the best stampede is? It's not in this movie, but it was in the trailer.
Oh yeah. For some reason that we watched the trailer right before this. There's a lot of scenes that don't actually appear in the film at all.
And the lengthiest one is when Djimon Hounsou is cradling Lupita Nyong'o in the immediate aftermath of the invasion, and they're just in the reception area of a theater, and you're hearing the noise and you're feeling the vibrations and you're seeing the visuals throughout the clouded out windows of the hordes just going, charging to one side like a stampede, and it's just them two sitting there remaining quiet. And that was a great moment for the trailer. Not in the movie.
Interesting, because there was a few scenes within the trailer that didn't appear, just like even extra characters. So I'm curious to see why, or at what stage those changes came about, if they're in the trailer. It's not even like they're in trailer 1, they're in like official trailer, do you know?
Yeah.
So that's interesting.
I feel like this movie did a great job in telling a beautiful story with a lot of meaning, because that's what these movies are.
Yeah.
The first movie is about a family and showing these kids how to grow up, and in the second one, their deceased father will be proud that their children have grown up, become capable, independent young ones. And this movie shines a lot of beauty in the simplicity of wanting to do something just for yourself.
Yeah.
And the simple act of helping another person. And
I really like the companionship, and not only between Lupita Nyong'o's character and Joseph Quinn, but with probably one of the most well-trained cats in cinematic history of Frodo. The companionship between all three of them. It wasn't like it was a cat who, when Joseph Quinn's character turned up, like she was hissing at it or anything. He was hissing at him, not wanting them to be there. Like, there was just like companionship between all three. I thought that was beautiful.
Welcome companionship. This movie did a good job to meet the heights of the other two movies.
Yeah.
That and this is done in close quarter, right? 2018, A Quiet Place. 2021, A Quiet Place Part 2.
But only because of COVID.
Yes.
It was pushed. It was initially in 2020, wasn't
And
it?
it was initially for 2020, and by extension, 2023 was supposed to be A Quiet Place Day 1 that was pushed. Feels natural to have it now, because we originally were supposed to have A Quiet Place Part 3 in 2025. No doubt that'll probably be 2026 now.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to have this come out now as like to take a break. What a nice break this was.
Yeah.
And then we can go back to Part 3 with the main family. But I would welcome additional A Quiet Place movies focusing on other characters with unique stories to tell in settings that are very peculiar in relation to these noise sensitive monsters.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no reason for there not to be that.
Yeah. And whether that would be a perspective from the military or a perspective from a group of people who go away on a retreat and come back to civilized society completely destroyed, not realizing that these monsters have just invaded, or in another country in the UK, or shock, Ireland. See, imagine that, these creatures coming to Ireland. The size of the island of Ireland, you'd be over in a matter of minutes.
A group of characters who somehow come together, but none of them speak the same language.
That definitely would fall under the banner of what these type of stories could mean. Not just sign language, but oh my god.
Because even though they can't speak, they physically can't speak, but they can't understand each other either.
And that would build upon the idea that in these movies, characters have to use their facial expressions to communicate, because that's not just done in part 1 and 2, it's also done here. And when Lupita Nyong'o was cast in this movie, I thought, wow, that is definitely suitable.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to think, what movies that were horror-like or thriller-like based that paved the path for her to land this movie? Us. She was in Us with Jordan Peele.
Yeah.
A horror movie. That was a horror thriller movie. So that made it obvious. So do you know what I think another spin-off could feature? James McAvoy.
I do love James McAvoy. Yeah.
He was in Split and he was in It, and now he's going to be...
Oh yeah, what's the other one? It's like See No Evil?
Speak No Evil.
Speak No Evil, yeah.
So James McAvoy would be a perfect, obvious choice for leading A Quiet Place.
And I'm glad when this was announced, and it's Lupita Nyong'o, who is Oscar winning. She won the Oscar.
She won that Oscar.
Like, she is
Oscar winning.
Very famous person. And then Joseph Quinn, who's also... He's on the cusp of that kind of the new fame, the new Hollywood. That it wasn't like, we're going to do a spin-off, but it's with no one you've ever heard of before. You know? Because I think that some movies can falter at that, where you get a spin-off to the main franchise, but it's not Emily Blunt, it's not Cillian Murphy. But now it's equal, if not better than the originals. It's not like it's, oh yeah, that's just another one. It's very much a part of the universe.
It's 1A and 1B.
Exactly. And something that I really, really love about prequels, well, something that I think prequels should do, I think prequels always have baked in problems, but the fact that this is set so far before where we meet the initial characters in Quiet Place 1 and 2, and it also doesn't feature them. So the stakes are high because we don't know any of these characters. Anything can happen. Any of them can live. The only person that we know of is Djimon Hounsou. But I think what was fantastic about him and his character, introduced at the beginning, and you're like, oh, there's Djimon Hounsou. Okay, brilliant.
I saw you raise your fist.
I was like, yeah, there he is. Okay, brilliant. And then I was like, okay, he's going to be in it throughout. Gone for the majority of the story, and he comes back in the last one. I'm like, oh, there's a story to tell there.
Yeah.
How did they get there? There's a story to tell with him and the island that they end up on. So... I'd like to touch on that towards the end when we're talking about the story. I want to talk about his final scene at the beginning before we go away, because I thought that was great. I talked about that after the flashbacks.
After flashbacks we'll go into the story, but I also just want to touch on... What do I want to touch on?
I want to touch on one thing.
What do you want to touch on?
I want to touch on how I think there's something about these Quiet Place movies that just have a hold over the audiences. Because the two of us, we went to go see this last night. We walked up to book our seats. And as we were walking in, I went, oh, there's a lot of people here. I don't like the look of this. They're hardly all coming to see A Quiet Place, are they? I went to book my tickets and the screen was full. It was full. This was the biggest screen in our local cinema. And it was packed to the gills. Sat down, movie started, dead silence. Like, I don't know. I think it's because of how quiet the movie is. Maybe people are afraid that a monster is in the audience with them, but these movies just have a hold over people where they shut up. They stay quiet throughout. And I just thought it was like, in a room full of people, being able to hear a pin drop or being able to hear someone 10 rows up cough, and you're like, shut up.
We heard the cough.
I heard the cough and I was like, no, stop. I just think that they have such a hold over the audience, and then as well as that, just the sound design. Like, genuinely, when you're watching the film and... like the moment where they're going through the revolving doors and the suitcase drops and you hear it and you're like, oh no, that was so loud. Even though it's something that's not loud, like in everyday life, it's not going to be loud. But now all of a sudden, because the world is so quiet, just hearing that drop and you're like, oh, your heart sinks with every single sound that just is a little bit too loud. Your heart sinks. I just think it's brilliant.
Two things to say to that. The idea of trying not to make noise in these movies. You know, you can probably do a dissertation on how the originality of that, where the final girl has to hide from the Jason Voorhees, Michael Myers, and they're hiding, and they just have to not make a noise, and if they made a noise, they're in the room, they're gonna hear you. The Quiet Place elevated these type of scenarios and idea of what that means now. So much so it so much focuses on that. And the other thing is, David, yes, I did see the screen of all those seats booked by all these people we're going to see in the auditorium. Boy, I'm glad that this movie was captivating and silencing them, because I wasn't going to be able to shush them all by myself. God damn it, I can try my best, but I knew my best wasn't going to be good enough. I was going to die hushing.
Yeah. You want to jump into some flashbacks before we talk about some of the story?
Shh.
Laura, play that jingle for us, but quietly. Thank you, Laura. Okay, so jumping into some flashbacks. Flashback number 1, Lupita Nyong'o was afraid of cats and she had to undergo cat therapy to play Samira. She explained, I was terrified of cats. I couldn't be in the room with a cat, but I wanted to play Sam so badly, and she has this cat, so I had to face my fear. I touched one and then two, and then before you know it, I was petting one until I could hold one without freaking out.
I've never heard of a fear of cats.
My mom is deathly afraid of cats. She can't be in the same room as one. So
really?
Yeah, genuinely.
I actually think you told me that before, but it's not something that I would think. Like, I remember being a bit scared of a dog as a child, but that was because I was a child. The dog was bigger than me. And I think I remember not being so fond of cats because one scraped my wrist and I says, oh, fuck you, I don't like you. So I'm proud to admit that this is one of the best cats I've seen in media ever.
I was genuinely afraid of that for that cat the entire time.
Yeah, there were definitely 2 or 3 situations where the cat literally ran off, and the cat's definitely going to die in this situation.
Yeah,
it's one of those situations where the pet dies, but not just that didn't happen. Contributing companion, as you mentioned earlier. Not only did the cat not hiss at the likes of Joseph Quinn, they never hissed at the monsters.
I thought I was afraid.
Never.
I was afraid it was going to die by its own fault.
Yes, if the cat hissed at that monster,
it's gone immediately.
Yeah. The cat knew what was up. Frodo, and I like how that cat was the one to witness the introduction of Joseph Quinn's character, like an angel. Guiding angel to bring.
He followed the cat, and the cat brought Eric to Sam. I thought that was quite nice. It was only when I was doing the flashbacks that I realised that Lupita Nyong'o's character's name is Sam. Because when she initially said to the kid in the marionette show, she's like, "Oh, his name's Frodo." I was like, "I would have named him Sam." I was like, "Oh, her name is Sam." So Frodo and Sam. I was like, that's pretty funny. So moving on then. Flashback number 2. The large majority of the scenes set in New York City were actually filmed in London. The one major scene filmed on location is outside one of the film's few named locations, Patsy's Pizzeria in Harlem.
Oh. Did they demolish it and vandalise it and blow it up?
I don't know. I hope not. Apparently, I was looking this up as well. Apparently, Patsy's Pizza they are credited with being the inventors of New York style pizza.
Right.
So they're a very famous pizza joint. But
they won't beat Tita's in RD.
There was at no point did I think that they weren't in New York. I thought that
when you said London, that definitely struck. I suppose that's how they got Joseph Quinn, because he spoke with a British accent, and I didn't realise he was British. Or maybe I did and just forgot, because he did a great American accent in Stranger Things. So he's either or now. And that's also a funny thing. I wonder, because they film in London, they have the immediate star, the billing name, Lupita Nyong'o, in this movie. I wonder, because they film in London, were they able to just get the next best available up and comer to play the likes of Eric? And I'm just curious to know how that casting came about, especially for the London setting, because I was not expecting a British accent.
It's one of those things where you have to wonder, was he cast before Stranger Things came out? Because if so, then that's like a...
No, he was cast after.
After, was it? Yeah. Okay, yeah. Because you kind of wonder, like, did they... Because some actors come in and they just hit at the right moment. And they have one thing, and then all of a sudden they have another, and then all of a sudden they have another. And it's like...
Barry Keoghan, Glenn Powell.
Exactly, yeah. Or even if you look at... The one that always springs to my mind is Jim Carrey. You look at Jim Carrey, right? Jim Carrey in 1994 had Ace Ventura, Dumb and Dumber, and The Mask. All three, like three of his biggest films, all of them hit in the exact same year. So you kind of wonder, well, obviously not, where like something came out and then it's like, okay, let's get him. Do you know? It just so happens that all three of them. So it does make me wonder, like with Joseph Quinn, did he just so happen to hit it big with these two things in a row? And it looks like, oh yeah, they got him for A Quiet Place because he did so well in Stranger Things, when it could just be that they happen to be the same. Well, but the same with the Glenn Powell is a good example there.
Barry Keoghan as well. Seriously, Barry Keoghan really did hit it big. But I would argue it was insider information, because he's not just done A Quiet Place. You know, he's a contributing... I'm trying to think of a classy word to say it, but because of how great he was in this movie. But he was cast as probably the villain in the upcoming Gladiator 2, who was supposed to be with Barry Keoghan, but I guess not. He's also playing Johnny Storm. Yeah. And I forced myself to not think this guy's playing our Human Torch in Fantastic Four.
Oh yeah, that never crossed my mind in this, actually. Yeah,
it crossed my mind twice, and I forcibly told myself to not think that, because he's that good of an actor and I want to maintain captive in this movie. Yeah, so he's hit it big. Before you go to your next flashback, another actor who's just hit it big constantly, all of a sudden, with not much of the work has been released yet. Paul Walter Hauser.
Yeah. Has he got a lot coming up?
He's got an awful lot coming up.
Okay. I liked him. I've only really seen him in Blackbird.
You're going to see him like 5 different projects now in the next 2-3 years.
Okay, good. I look forward.
2 years, I'd say. Definitely 2 years. You're going to see him in a lot of projects now.
I look forward to him.
Oh, yeah.
And then flash fact number 3. Djimon Hounsou reprises his role from the second film. However, his character's name is never revealed. In the second film, his name is Man from Ireland. And in this film, it's never revealed.
I think his name's Henry.
No, you're wrong.
Am I wrong?
I don't know. Maybe. Let me just check.
Check that while I goss on.
Well, it's never... When is that said in the movie?
When was her name Sam said in the movie? Because
his name actually is Henry. Yeah, well, I don't remember it being said in the movie.
I don't remember Lupita Nyong'o's name being said in the movie.
I feel like Alex Wolff's character would have said it to her in the hospital.
Okay, fair. That's true.
Yeah.
Do you know something else? I was reminded that the cat's name was Frodo because I looked it up. I completely forgot that the cat's name was Frodo because immediately after, Djimon Hounsou was in the seat next to her. And the way he just turned back, it's revealed that it's his kid looking at Lupita, who, by the way, I'm thinking, she's not a welcoming person. And so I'm thinking, she's going to be responding to this kid, that he's annoying her and whatnot, but she was alright. You know, the kid only wanted to say hi to Kat, and then lo and behold, Kratos is sitting in the seat.
Soon to be announced Kratos.
Did you see the size of him in this movie?
Yeah.
He's such a nice man in this movie. His type of character falls under the trope or trap of prequels. Because he's introducing a project, and then when you have a prequel come out, you bring back that character, and in that movie, in the prequel, you give them room to grow. That's in an awful lot of prequels. Andor's guilty of one of them for a lot of the characters, and sometimes it works well, sometimes it hinders on the fact that it's great, but it's still bothersome because you know where the conclusion is for those characters. and sometimes it doesn't work well.
What is his character's conclusion in the second one?
He dies gruesomely.
Yeah, I thought so.
Gruesomely, David, and very unceremoniously, non-sacrificially. He has the death of the movie in A Quiet Place Part 2.
Yeah. I'd say one thing that I think this film did quite well is that after it, I was like, oh, I actually really want to watch the other two again. Because I've only seen the second one the once when it was released back in 2021.
Really?
Yeah. But I was like, I should watch that one again. Not the first one, because I've seen the first one a few times. Because I think I did a college project on it as well. So I've seen that a few times. I remember this well.
We're still in the flashbacks section.
I know we're still in the flashbacks, but I'm staying here. I had seen it when it initially came out, right? And then we were doing a project. Do you remember where we had to do presentations?
All the time?
No. We had to go to the art centre in the town, and we had to give a presentation to like random people that were there.
Yeah.
So
I remember that.
I had to watch A Quiet Place again before the film came out, or before we did that presentation, so that I could do my notes on it and stuff, and make a presentation. But then the lecturer was like, oh yeah, you need to go to the film and watch it again. I was like, so I have to watch it like on a Monday, and then I have to go watch it on a Friday as well. Like, we had to watch it again. So I'd seen it like twice in 1 week then. And I was like, oh, I'll just come in at the end. Like, and they were like, no, you have to be there the entire time. And I was like, what do you mean? So I've seen like A Quiet Place once and then twice in the span of 1 week. So that was too much. And then as well as that, like looking up clips to like refer. So I've seen too much of the first film.
I'm trying to think back why and what I had to.
Yeah, what film did you do?
I can't remember.
No.
I can't remember who my teammates were.
No. But yeah, let's get out of the flashback section. Sorry. Laura, play us out of here.
So I want to talk about the story of A Quiet Place Day 1.
Yeah.
Turns out we're following a character who's somewhat on the brink of death because she's got cancer.
I think that this was a nice way of kind of bookending the character as to like, oh, why didn't we see her in the second one? Like,
I think the population of America in the billions has something to do with it.
Sometimes when it comes to a prequel, you immediately jump to, okay, well, why didn't I see this character in the first or the second film? Now, obviously, with this one, it's slightly different because they're very much following different stories. But, like, for example, if I go to the prequel known as Solo, a Star Wars story, sometimes you wonder, why didn't I see Woody Harrelson in any of the other Star Wars projects? Why didn't I see Emilia Clarke's character in any of these other projects?
Would the fact that they're in outer space in a galaxy as far and wide as they would tend to be, space would tend to be.
No, because
we're just never mind Earth. We're just in a city. I
understand where you're coming from.
Yeah,
but even though the Star Wars galaxy is huge, it's still very small. We still go to the same planets pretty much every time.
That's Lucasfilm's fault.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, with this, a prequel just does raise the questions of why haven't I seen these characters before? So
can I ask you this? Mm-hmm. I want to attack you on this.
That's okay.
Did you go into this thinking that thought? Did you go into this movie with the thought in your head, whether it's active or passive, why isn't Lupita Nyong'o's character, or why isn't Joseph Quinn's character in the preceding event movies?
I thought about it, just in the sense that because I knew Djimon Hounsou was in it, and I know where his character ends up on that island, then I think, okay, are these two going to make it to the end? Are these two going to be on that island? Are we going to find... Is this movie going to end with them on the island, and then all of a sudden in the background we see Cillian Murphy's character running, going crazy?
Yes.
Are we going to tie it up as with a nice little bow to that level? So I do go into it thinking that. However, when we're introduced to Lupita Nyong'o and we find out that she has cancer, I'm like, okay, that's likely going to be her end then. Even though she's going to go through all these dramatic things, it's probably going to be this that gets her, not the monsters. And not to jump straight to the end, what I really liked then is how at the end of the film, when she decides
To make her decision.
it's, even though she is killed by the monsters, it's her decision. She goes out how she wants to go out.
On her own terms.
On her own terms. She's had the pizza. She's been back to the bar where she spent time with her dad when they were younger. But she decides, after listening to the music, that it's not the cancer that's going to get her. It's the monsters, but it's her decision to go. And I really like that. You know, that she didn't let this thing take her. You know, it was absolutely her decision.
Beautiful. Bittersweet.
It is. It's bittersweet. That's the best way to put it. And I liked that Joseph Quinn's character is the one that got to go on the boat.
As opposed to Lupita. You think in the traditional movie making, storytelling, it would be the companion.
He would sacrifice for her.
Because he's the supporting character, whereas she's
Yes.
the main character. Mm-hmm. No, it's the other way around.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, while we're talking about it, after we go through the beautiful story that they have, we now know, me and you, that Joseph Quinn, doesn't matter if he's young or he's still homesick, he's frightened. Mm-hmm. And he's afraid, and he's panicked quite a few times in the movie.
It looks like he has a few panic attacks a few times.
And he it's good that, I'm not trying to call him a child, but it's near childlike, because he's not the patriotic male dominant man.
No, not at all. When you look at the other three main paternal characters in this franchise, Djimon Hounsou, John Krasinski and Cillian Murphy, Joseph Quinn is nothing like any of those three. He is very much like he says it himself, like he's there to go to law school.
Yeah.
He's a kid. He's in his maybe 2021.
Yeah, it could be 2021.
So he is very much afraid and does not know what to do in any of this.
He's told to go to safety in the opposite direction of Lupita Nyong'o, and he says he'd rather go with her to get pizza so he just doesn't be alone. Mm-hmm. So knowing that we've seen, without dialogue, he's had panic attacks when they're in the water. He repeatedly says, okay, when they're talking under the rain, when he doesn't know what to do, when he's told to go one way, but he still wants to go with her. When he's fighting hypothermia, because he hid himself underwater, because he didn't get killed by the monster, and essentially Frodo the cat found him. And he was guided to his guardian angel, Lupita Nyong'o, who's fighting her own demons. It really solidified that she would do all she could to make sure he would run to safety. And just as the scene was coming near to executing, this is what's going to happen, this is her decision, I knew it was going to take that approach. I didn't know if she was going to be killed immediately, because banging all these cars and vehicles and making all these noises, would all the car alarms save her from being killed immediately, so she can still observe if he makes it to the boat. And how is he going to make the boat? Because these boats are in the water far from the dock, and he has to run too. She gave him the cat and he ran, and he didn't hesitate to run either, because he was told to. And he ran, and one little accidental tip of a can in his run garnered a couple of monsters like cockroaches. Wide shots, David. It was done very, very thrillingly well. And he's running anyway, and he's running, and that little quick cut back to her breath, because they were so close to getting him. It was so fast in the moment. I would not have been surprised if he died.
That's the thing, is it's because it's the prequel syndrome of, we're introduced to new characters and it's the climax, and and he's the supporting character. There's no guarantee he's going to make it there. We haven't seen him in A Quiet Place 1 or 2.
I think
there's no guarantee that he would make that. So
I think
there was a real sense of danger.
I think his absence from the first two movies did not play an impact in my thinking.
Okay, it did for me, but
it did for you.
Yeah,
him being absent from those two movies did not ebb and flow my decision or anxiety whether he would make it or not. It was just the moment of what was happening, and of course the journey that they've gone through, and us getting to know them as the characters, and how they can just pull a fast one on us, and that he just dies, and her sacrifice meant nothing. but the way they did it, and he made it, and he charged, and he jumped in the water, and I said, fuck you to them monsters. I literally said it to myself, because I don't want to say it too loud. Yeah, fuck you. I say that a lot when the villains deservedly don't get what they want.
Yeah. And I like that she had always decided that he was going to make it, because she had wrote him the note about the cat. Like, she had always said, like, I'm going to sacrifice myself.
And I like that they swapped jackets as well.
Did you notice that the jacket she was wearing, the cardigan, was her dad's? In the photo,
no, it didn't, actually.
Yeah, the photo that she's looking at in the pizza place or in the jazz club, he's wearing the yellow cardigan.
Show, don't tell.
Yeah, I thought it was a lovely touch.
She was wearing his jacket as well. Lupita Nyong'o was wearing Joseph Quinn's jacket from his suit. Because
they swapped.
They swapped. And I thought that was really nice. And I liked how she saw him escape, and they're both looking back at each other, even though realistically they can't see each other.
Yeah.
But I like how Henry, the noble good man, was the one to pull him up and to pull him to safety, and he hugs him and he braces him. And I love that. I love that he made it, because it warms your heart knowing who Joseph Quinn was. He's scared. We've talked about how scared he is, how frightened he is. But we also saw how he can be brave, because not only he gets the meds for Lupita, he also tries to get Frodo the cat back, and we talked about earlier about how that scene
could have so easily just left the cat there.
Oh yeah,
it's a cat. No,
he went to get it, and it's not a simple walk. He has to slip through scaffolding and climb up
girders. Yeah,
there's no handle grips. There's no handlebars. You have to get up there yourself and also not make noise. And you know what else I really loved? I wasn't the type of person to think, because he followed her when she left her apartment, and he followed her. He didn't just follow her. He gave her her book back. And when they're running in that scene, being chased by everything in the building and out the building, I like how he's making sure he's bringing her with her. He's not running ahead of her. He's putting two hands on her to guide her through, because she's not physically strong enough to run that pace. And he's taking the few seconds it needs to take to grab a rock and fire into the car to set off an alarm. Smart thinking. That's good. I like to see characters make independent, active, constructive decisions like that, and not make stupid decisions. Here's another thing, David. I really thought this was going to be right. I thought Joseph Quinn's character was going to be that New Yorker stockbroker who's going to be arrogant, who would literally throw the cat into the direction of the monsters to save himself, and then abandon Lupita Nyong'o. And I thought he was going to be one of those arsehole suit type guy. You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Real profile, right? Because he's wearing a suit. He's got black hair. I thought he was just going to be a real dickhead. And it just so happens he's the convenient companion the character Lupita teams up with for the sake of survival. And I thought they were going to play on that trope of this typical suit-wearing stockbroker type of asshole by making him come around to do an act of good and justice.
Him sacrifice himself for her.
Something he would not do in a world where the alien invasion didn't happen.
Yeah.
Or in a world where he would not sacrifice himself if he didn't get to know her.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But no, it's completely off the case. First of all, he's British. Alright, he's got parents in Kent. I've got a granduncle in Kent. And I really love the character he played. And you can think all you want, was he on the island with Djimon Hounsou in the events of Quiet Place Part 2? Doesn't matter. What matters is this moment. This act of survival and this moment of surviving. And honouring the sacrifice that she made to get him to safety. What matters is that moment there. He could die the next day.
Yeah.
But you don't need to show us that. We just need to know that in this moment, in this setting, in this movie, he survives. We know there's a long-term temporary conclusion of safety for this character. I want to touch on Alex Wolff, the nurse, who was, I thought, going to be the yin to my originally thought yang of Joseph Quinn, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I get you, yeah.
I thought Alex Wolff was going to be the kind-hearted good man who she loses way too early. And she did. He died just like, and I knew that was gonna come, and it was done very generically. Like, maybe that's not a bad way of saying it. I'm trying to say that, of course, with him dying, that's her cue to leave.
Yeah, she's no other reason to stay there anymore. Yeah.
He's not there to stop her. By the way, I think it's the first time I've seen Alec Wolff now look like an actual man, not a teenager.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah. I know what you mean.
He's in Hereditary and he's in the Jumanji movies. He's a teenager. He's a kid. He's stocked up.
Yeah.
He's got a beard.
Beard, long hair. Yeah, no, he genuinely looks like a person.
Yeah.
Like an adult. Yeah.
And I always thought it was interesting to get... I thought those two actors, Joseph Quinn and Alex Wolff, oh, cool. I wonder... Because they seem like of similar age range and the two type of characters you would see in certain settings.
Yeah.
And I liked how the man in Ireland, Djimon Hounsou, Kratos, had an arc of himself where he had to kill a man because he wouldn't...
That's what I wanted to touch on. I teased that a little bit earlier. That's such a great scene. The guy who, after the bridge collapses, he comes out, he's like, we're dead, and he's shouting, and he has to hold him down, and his son is there watching him, and he accidentally kills him, and then the son is gone, and there's no resolution to that at all. He just, that's the last we see of him. Such an intense scene, and then we don't even see the consequences of it because it's not his story, you know.
But I like how we see that shot of him where he's just sitting and resting in the chair while she leaves. Lupita leaves. You know, I thought this movie was going to be in the arc of where she's with the nurse, then she's with Joseph Quinn's character, and then towards the end she's with Djimon Hounsou's character.
Yeah,
I thought it was going to be in that way, but no, it's not at all. I think that also contributed how he figured out you have to stay silent to survive. But that was learned by the majority of the masses of people off screen.
I think it's...
And because she gets whacked in the head. She wakes up. And in that time of unconsciousness, they figured it out.
I think initially it seemed that maybe they didn't realise that that they had super hearing. That it was just stay quiet so they don't find us.
Yeah.
There was no confirmation, I suppose, that it is definitely sound. So I think initially maybe it was very much that, like, don't make a noise because they'll come in and find us. As you would with any monster.
Yeah.
You know,
but
it wasn't
Final
until...
girl hiding from, you know.
So maybe it would have been a little bit later on where they find out, oh no, it is just sound.
Yeah.
Like,
you can do literally what Alex Wolff did. Faced off, stared it right in front of you. Because that's what he did.
Because there's not very often where you're going to find yourself face to face with one of these monsters and you're not accidentally making a sound.
Yeah.
It would only be that if one came up and walked beside you and you were dead silent, that you realise, oh, it can't hear me. Do you know, it's blind. So,
interesting concept for a creature in the end. But I liked all the characters, as we discussed. I liked where everyone concluded. I suppose if I had any issues, one was when Alex Wolff was killed, like he tried to turn off the generator. Okay, everything's good, everything's Gucci. Tore a rip in his shirt, and he turns to the other camera angle, and he's just killed off in the wide shot. And Lupita knew to stay quiet. And then next scene, she's just in the other room upstairs.
Yeah, where did it go? Where did the monster go?
Is it not still in there? Is it not still creeping around? Like, part 2 ended because the monster was in the boat, and the boat ventured to shore, and it made its way to the island, and that's when Cillian Murphy has that famous running shot. I love running shots in these movies, by the way. John Krasinski had it. Cillian Murphy had it. Don't think we had a 2-1 here with Lupita and Joseph Quinn running together.
The glass building.
You know what? You know what that reminded me of? Rebels in Star Wars Rogue One running. I think the way Rebels in those Star Wars type of shows or movies run, it's like the elbow from side to side running as fast as you can, whether you're holding someone or not. You feel more like, you feel bulky and wide. I don't know how to describe it. It's like every step of a run you make, you have to make sure those centimeters count.
Yeah.
To escape.
If we don't, we're dead.
If you don't commit to the physical necessity of running for your life from these monsters, as I felt these characters were doing here, you get the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah.
And I was just trying to remember everything so I don't forget. I also thought that for the theatre to be filled with so many people, I felt like it felt very empty when Alex Wolff died and she was leaving. Felt very empty. Like, where was the auditorium full of people? Just because we don't see them, just because we don't see them doesn't mean they're not there, but it felt like they weren't there. It felt like she was leaving an abandoned theatre, But she had an interesting journey where she left and she stocked up and she met the kids. She guided them on their way, probably died, and then she met Joseph Quinn and she was his guardian angel and she got him to survive. But she thanked him, thank you for bringing me home. He should be thanking her, but it's her who thanks him. And that scene in the bar was lovely.
I was going to say, I really have to commend the film as well for it character moments, that it doesn't have a problem just slowing down sometimes. And there was two scenes in particular. The first one being when they go to her apartment and they scream when the thunderstorm is happening. I'm like, okay, great, this is a therapeutic, just an opportunity for them to make some noise. And I love that when they're kicking the door down, like they time it to the thunder and lightning.
Yeah, great.
And then the scene in the bar where he does the little magic act for her, and you see that moment where like the card comes out and her face lights up. She's like, genuinely surprised by it.
Yeah, it's
just such a lovely moment, and I'm so glad that the movie takes the time to just slow it down, just there.
And the movie had established itself for me that this could end where they die, or this could end where they could just survive temporarily and still die the next day, as it did for Joseph Quinn. But beautiful story and beautiful moments. I really like this movie. I'm actually surprised how much we were talking about this, but it just goes to show how well this movie did it. Yeah. And I'm not going to rank them.
No, I don't need to. I'm just happy
that this movie met the heights of the other one, and that because of how good this was, I welcome more.
Exactly, that's what I was going to say, is that we want more.
Yeah.
And I think that it's a franchise in its very early stages.
Because it's very new.
It is very, in the grand scheme, 2018, so 6 years, 3 movies. That's not bad. There's a lot of franchises that do a lot less in a lot more time.
And a lot worse too.
Yeah, and a lot worse. So I look forward to, if it's A Quiet Place 3 or another spin-off, or...
We're going to get part 3. I hope Cillian Murphy does come back with Emily Blunt and with the 2 children, however that movie will be. But each movie has a great selection of actors, A-listers. I'm telling you, James McAvoy.
Listen, I'd love to see him.
Yeah.
You got any recommendations for us before we go?
No.
I recommend something.
Yeah.
I recommend season 3 of The Bear. I haven't seen it yet. I've seen the first episode. You were talking about it last night, and you said that the first episode is like a real nice, like therapeutic, like just relax, just like a nice, like exhale.
Yeah.
Watched it this morning.
Yeah.
Exactly like that. It was just a lovely. Okay, here we go. So I'm excited now that I've exhaled, I'm excited for all the other episodes now to put me into a anxiety-ridden stress coma.
Get ready to hold your breath.
Yeah, exactly. I'm excited for that. Like that's how it feels, like controlled stress. So I think if you haven't watched The Bear at all, highly recommend watching The Bear. Season 3 is out now, all episodes. So yeah, that's my recommendation.
I actually do have a recommendation now.
Go for it.
Very bland. House of the Dragon, season 2.
I'm excited to see it. I haven't started it yet because I want to rewatch season 1. But
I'm watching a lot of shows right now that are airing episodically, week to week. The Boys, House of the Dragon, Presumed Innocent. I'm catching up on the Chucky. I'm also watching The Bear, and I'm watching a whole load of other stuff. I'll probably watch Dark Matter soon. But the point I'm trying to make, David, is that of all these shows I'm watching, The Boys included, it's House of the Dragon that remains with me weeks after I'm watching.
You're still thinking about it.
I'm still thinking about the episodes because that's how much of a lasting impact they have on me. I'm surprised as I am saying it, but the House of the Dragon is the strong one so far. So I haven't watched the Acolyte yet.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that one actually. Yeah,
because I haven't listed that because it's airing week to week. But
yeah, you're gonna wait till that's
I'm
all
gonna
out.
binge the entirety of that. So that's it.
Thank you, Brian, for joining me for this episode of Talking Pictures. Thank you so much to you listening at home for joining us for this episode. If you enjoyed it, make sure that you are subscribed to us. We post new episodes every single Wednesday, as well as a bonus episode every other weekend. I think we have a bonus episode coming out this weekend. Is that correct?
I think so.
Yeah. So make sure that you're checking the feed for that. Make sure you follow us on all our socials, on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook, on TikTok, on I don't know, wherever else we are.
I think they know.
They know by now. We're on Bebo as well. Fuck it. No, we're not on Bebo. I don't think Bebo exists anymore.
We're on Letterboxd.
We're on Letterboxd. There you go. If you have any suggestions or anything like that in terms of films that you'd like us to talk about or suggestions of bonus episodes, make sure to send them in to talkingpicturespodcast1@gmail.com. And tune in next week.
If you don't, we're just going to keep making up ideas to talk about because it's our podcast. We do what we want.
Thanks, Brian.
Thanks.